You've probably been told that only legendary bikes like the CB750 and Z1 matter in motorcycle history. But what if I told you that some of the most revolutionary bikes ever built have been completely erased from memory? Motorcycles with groundbreaking innovations, but forgotten legacies that nobody talks about. In this video, we're revealing the 17 most forgotten motorcycles from the 80s and 90s, ranked by their impact versus their current obscurity. And trust me, the bikes that made this list will blow your mind. From the first bike to break 150 miles per hour, to engines so advanced that Ferrari bought the technology, these machines shaped everything we ride today. And here's the kicker. The #1 most forgotten bike literally invented the modern sport bike category, but somehow vanished from history. Watch every second of this countdown, because this isn't just nostalgia. It's the difference between understanding motorcycle history and missing the bikes that created it. Ignore this, and you'll never know about the forgotten innovations that made today's bikes possible. Number 17, Triumph Trident 900, 1991 to 1998. Starting our countdown is the Triumph Trident 900, a crucial motorcycle in Triumph's modern revival that proved the British brand could build reliable, capable machines again. After decades of reputation damage, this bike was foundational in restoring faith in the Triumph name with its 885cc liquid-cooled inline-3 engine that delivered a unique mix of V-twin torque and 4-cylinder top-end power. The Trident was praised for its silky power and soulful growl that made it genuinely enjoyable to ride. It offered dependable performance and helped establish Triumph as a serious manufacturer in the modern era. However, the bike suffered from being top-heavy and difficult to maneuver at slow speeds. Plus, early models had starter sprag clutch issues, requiring expensive engine repairs. The Trident's forgotten status is actually a consequence of its success. It did its job so well as a foundational bike that it was quickly overshadowed by the more aggressive, exciting models it enabled, the Speed Triple and Daytona. It became a transitional product that was essential to Triumph's story, but got pushed into the background by the stars it created. Number 16, Harley-Davidson Dyna Daytona, 1992. The Dyna Daytona was a limited edition Harley produced only in 1992, existing as both a celebration of the new Dyna frame and a tribute to an era. Mechanically identical to the regular Dyna, its unique features were purely cosmetic. Distinctive indigo blue metallic / gold pear glow, paint, swept-back handlebars, and dual rotor front discs. As a limited edition model, the Dyna Daytona created brief excitement among Harley enthusiasts, but its lack of mechanical innovation meant it was ultimately just a blip on the radar. While its cosmetic differences were significant to collectors at the time, they're now merely a footnote in Harley's vast catalog of special editions. The Dyna Daytona represents how even Harley-Davidson can create forgettable motorcycles when the primary distinction is appearance rather than substance. In an era defined by radical technological shifts and performance innovations, cosmetic variations simply don't sustain lasting legacies. Number 15, Yamaha Radian YX600, 1986 to 1990. The Yamaha Radian was a humble, unfared standard bike powered by a slightly detuned 598cc inline-4 engine, borrowed from the XJ600. Producing around 66 horsepower, it was designed as a simple, affordable, dependable machine for commuting in general riding, the motorcycle equivalent of basic transportation. In a market increasingly defined by exciting new categories like race replica superbikes and muscle cruisers, the Radian's biggest problem was being completely unremarkable. It was eclipsed by more visually distinctive bikes and dismissed as a mediocre offering that brought nothing special to the table. The Radian was competent and honest, but in an age of aesthetic and technical fireworks, its humble design and average performance were recipes for being forgotten. It represents how being good enough isn't enough when surrounded by superstars. Sometimes competence without character leads to complete obscurity. Number 14, Honda CB1 NC27, 1989 to 1990. The Honda CB1 was a fascinating anomaly. a high-performance, small-displacement naked bike in a market obsessed with bigger is better. Powered by a 399cc liquid-cooled inline-4 engine producing 55 horsepower with an 11,500 RPM redline, it was essentially a detuned CBR 400RR engine in a naked chassis. The CB1 was praised for excellent handling and agile nature, representing a reincarnation of the standard motorcycle philosophy. However, it had no clear audience in the American market. Too expensive for beginners, lacking the raw performance to appeal to experienced riders buying 600cc sport bikes and large cruisers. Cycle World called it a great motorcycle that never found an audience and a victim of a difficult market. The fact that leftover 1990 models were still being sold at $600 discounts in 1992 clearly indicates its commercial failure. The CB1 was too good for its niche, but forgotten because that niche didn't exist in displacement-obsessed America. Number 13. Honda GB500 Tourist Trophy, 1989 to 1990. The GB500 Tourist Trophy was a visually stunning cafe racer that became a commercial failure, but is now a cult classic. Only available in the US for 1989 to 1990, it was meticulously styled to pay homage to classic British 500cc singles from the 1950s and 60s, powered by a 498 cubic centimeter air-cooled single, producing 33 horsepower. Despite its modest power, the GB500 was praised for its pleasant heartbeat, low weight, and sharp neutral handling. However, it launched at exactly the wrong time, when American tastes were dominated by high-performance sport bikes or big V-twin cruisers. The public wasn't ready for a small displacement retro cafe racer, costing $8,680 new, about $400 more than a contemporary Harley Sportster. Only 3,500 units sold in the US. The GB500 was a prophet of the modern retro trend, a beautiful machine that was commercially unloved, but now celebrated by a generation that finally appreciates its unique style and character. Number 12. Triumph Adventurer 900, 1996 to 2001. The Triumph Adventurer was an intriguing but failed attempt by the revived British brand to enter the cruiser market. Essentially a Triumph Thunderbird 900 in cruiser clothing, it shared the same 885cc inline-3 engine, steel spine frame, and major cycle parts. Only the styling was different. The Adventurer suffered from a severe identity crisis, having cruiser styling, but the engine and handling characteristics of a standard bike. The well-loved triple engine delivered unique torque and a turbine-like whine that was poorly matched to cruiser aspirations. It was top-heavy at low speeds and lacked the authentic cruiser feel of American rivals. While mechanically sound, the market rejected it for lacking authenticity. It was quickly overshadowed by its more successful sibling, the Thunderbird, and Triumph's more aggressive beloved bikes like the Speed Triple. The Adventurer was essentially a bike without a soul, a cosmetic exercise that failed to create a lasting identity. Number 11. Suzuki LS650 Savage, 1986 to 2004. The Suzuki LS650 Savage was a simple single-cylinder thumper cruiser that served as an excellent learner bike for new or smaller riders. Its 652cc air-cooled single produced modest 31 horsepower, but the thumper design provided torquey feel at lower RPMs with low-maintenance belt drive and simple construction. However, the Savage was far from perfect. The single-cylinder engine created significant vibrations at highway speeds, making long trips uncomfortable. More critically, it suffered from a terrible cam chain tensioner design that could fail and cause serious engine damage, plus a stock petcock prone to fouling. The Savage's biggest problem was its role as a gateway bike. Riders quickly outgrew its limited performance, and its anemic power figures, less than a contemporary Ninja 250, meant it lacked prestige or power to be a long-term keeper. When production ended, few seemed to notice, making it the epitome of a forgotten classic. Number 10. Kawasaki Vulcan 750, 1985 to 2006. The Kawasaki Vulcan 750 was a dependable cruiser with an unusually long 22-year production run, representing Kawasaki's first cruiser in V-twin engine. The liquid-cooled V-twin featured a flat torque curve and was notably underrated, often producing 8 to 10% more power than advertised, plus reliable shaft drive unusual in its class. The bike's design remained largely unchanged throughout its production run, a sign of dependability, but eventually its downfall. Its styling and technology became dated, leading to perception as a cheaper alternative, rather than a first choice. The main reliability issue was a weak charging system with stator and regulator rectifier failures. The Vulcan 750 became a victim of its own stagnation. Its long, unchanged production run turned it into a relic, and when finally discontinued, few seemed to notice. It represents how even dependable motorcycles can be forgotten when they fail to evolve with changing times. If you're surprised by how many genuinely good bikes have been completely forgotten, make sure to subscribe because the top 9 get even more shocking. Number 9. Yamaha Virago 750, 1981 to 1998. The Yamaha Virago 750 was highly influential in launching the Japanese cruiser craze in America as Yamaha's first V-twin cruiser. It broke new ground with the world's first mass-produced monoshock rear suspension on a street bike, plus low-maintenance shaft drive and air-adjustable forks in a low-slung frame using the engine as a stressed member. While generally solid and reliable, the Virago was plagued by a significant early design flaw: a fully mechanical starter system prone to wear that created a common grinding and skipping sound when starting. This frustrating issue wasn't officially addressed until 1986, when an improved electromechanical system was introduced. The Virago was seen by consumers as a decidedly mediocre motorcycle and cheaper alternative to Harley-Davidson, preventing it from becoming truly cherished. Its legacy is tied to proving a market for Japanese cruisers existed, but mechanical flaws and unremarkable design meant it was eventually replaced by more successful V-Star and Roadstar series, fading into historical artifact status. Number 8. Honda Magna VF750C, 1982 to 1988, 1994 to 2003. The Honda Magna dared to be different in a cruiser market dominated by V-twin engines, featuring a V4 engine derived from Honda's racing machines. This gave the Magna massive performance advantages, while contemporary 750cc twin cruisers produced about 45 horsepower. The Magna's V4 delivered nearly double at 87 horsepower, making it one of the first true muscle cruisers. The Magna was praised for its balance of torque and horsepower, smooth power delivery, and rock-solid reliability. However, its V4 engine was also its biggest market weakness. It lacked the traditional V-twin thump that cruiser buyers valued, alienating the target audience who prioritized sound and feel over performance. The Magna's failure demonstrates how technically superior products can fail when they don't match market values. It was too powerful for many new riders and too different for traditional cruiser buyers who valued V-twin authenticity over pure performance. Its legacy was overshadowed by Honda's more successful traditional V-twin Shadow series. Number 7. Yamaha V-Max, 1985 to 2007. The Yamaha V-Max pioneered the power cruiser genre, designed specifically for the American market with inspiration from drag racing and muscle cars. Its defining feature was a 1,198cc liquid-cooled V4 with the revolutionary V-Boost system that opened butterfly valves at 6,000 RPM, effectively doubling intake size and dramatically boosting power from 95 horsepower to 145 horsepower with exhilarating acceleration. While its engine was revolutionary, the V-Max was a deeply flawed motorcycle. Weighing nearly 620 pounds with frame and suspension wholly inadequate for its power, it was criticized for poor cornering ability and tendency to stand up in turns. The small 3.3-gallon fuel tank provided only 100-mile range, severely limiting practicality. The V-Max legacy is as a niche product, a drag strip hero that was difficult to live with daily. Its poor handling and impracticality made it a novelty act rather than a practical motorcycle. The fact that restricted versions without V-Boost were sold internationally highlights its identity crisis and why its unique appeal was often lost globally. Number 6. Kawasaki ZX750 Turbo, 1984 to 1985. The ZX750 Turbo was Kawasaki's fascinating but futile entry into the early 80s turbo wars, an arms race among Japanese manufacturers for maximum power. The 738cc turbocharged engine produced 112 horsepower, but uniquely positioned the turbocharger close to exhaust ports to reduce lag, making it addictively smooth and rev-happy, with sub-11-second quarter-mile times. Despite impressive performance, the ZX750 Turbo's demise was swift. It arrived late to the turbo party when public wariness already existed, but crucially faced internal competition from the revolutionary GPZ 900R Ninja, released simultaneously. The Ninja's more complete package with better handling and progressive power showed the future lay in new 16-valve liquid-cooled engines, not complex forced induction. The ZX750 Turbo became a technological dead end, a what-if rendered obsolete by its own sibling. Production halted after just 1 year, making it a fascinating footnote in the transition from experimental turbos to the modern superbike era. Number 5. Honda CBX, 1978 to 1982. The Honda CBX was an audacious mechanical masterpiece featuring a transverse-mounted, air-cooled 1047 cis inline-six engine with 24 valves and 4 overhead cams producing 105 brake horsepower. The press called it the fastest production motorcycle and the Vincent Black Shadow of 1979, with an engine sound that was to die for. However, the CBX was a triumph of engineering over practicality. Weighing around 600 pounds wet with notoriously poor handling, especially when ridden hard. The public was wowed by its complexity and sound, but balked at its bulk and high cost. Honda's own CB900F, with superior handling, outsold the CBX significantly. Realizing it lacked a clear audience, Honda repositioned it in 1981 as a sport tourer with fairing and luggage. But this gentleman's express approach couldn't save it. The CBX is truly forgotten because its legacy isn't built on sales or utility, but on the magnificent, impractical spectacle of its engine. A bike without purpose in its time, but now highly sought after precisely because of the exotic engine that sealed its commercial fate. Number 4. Yamaha FZ750, 1985 to 1991. The Yamaha FZ750 was a technically brilliant sport bike that somehow slipped under the radar, despite being a flagship showcase for Yamaha's Genesis design philosophy. It featured the world's first 5-valve per-cylinder engine with a radically sloped, forward-inclined engine block that created ideal combustion chamber design and 10% more power than conventional 4-valve engines. The 5-valve technology was so successful that Ferrari bought the rights for their cars. The FZ750 was praised for tractable power and copious mid-range that came on smoothly from 3,000 RPM, making it great for everything from touring to track days. However, it suffered from brakes that were not up to the mark and prone to warping, plus weedy suspension with fork seals prone to failure. The FZ750's biggest problem was aesthetics. Its unique engine layout gave it an awkward, half-faired look, less visually exciting than flashier contemporaries like the Suzuki Katana. As Yamaha moved to the FZR 1000 flagship, the FZ750 faded from memory, becoming a cautionary tale of brilliant engineering let down by styling and market timing. Number 3. Suzuki GSXR 750, first generation, 1986 to 1987. The first generation GSXR 750 single-handedly created the modern superbike philosophy of race bike with lights. Unveiled at Cologne, it was a radical departure from heavy steel frame bikes, featuring compact air and oil-cooled SX engine in a lightweight package. At just 394 pounds dry, it was up to 78 pounds lighter than contemporary 750cc competition, creating dominant power-to-weight ratio. For racers, the GSXR was an immediate sensation, a race-ready bike straight from the crate that became the go-to choice for privateers worldwide. However, for average road riders, it was a flawed beast with chassis often overpowered by the engine, skinny forks, and high weight distribution, contributing to terrifying instability at high speeds. One journalist described horrifying experiences at 200 kilometers per hour with the bike weaving terrifyingly over 2 lanes. The first-gen GSXR became a victim of its own success and rapid evolution. Its raw, unrefined nature was quickly improved upon by the slingshot generation and more balanced competitors like the Honda Fireblade. The original slab-sided GSXR was a revolutionary but flawed first draft that was quickly overshadowed by its own successors and refined competitors. Number 2, Honda FR750F, 1986 to 1997. The Honda FR750F, known as the Viffer to devotees, was a legendary sport touring machine born from corporate redemption. After the chocolate camshaft crisis damaged Honda's reputation in the early 80s, the VFR was developed as a no-compromise solution to restore consumer trust, featuring durable gear-driven cams and advanced aluminum chassis. The VFR's success was immediate and profound. A stock version won the 1986 Transatlantic Trophy race, shifting public perception back to Honda's favor. In 1990, Honda added a single-sided swing arm previously reserved for racing bikes, enhancing its exotic appeal. MCN gave it 4.8/5 for reliability and build quality, earning bulletproof reputation among owners. However, the VFR wasn't perfect. Its regulator armory rectifier, positioned in poor airflow locations, led to heat buildup and failure, potentially damaging the stator. The FR750F's downfall was paradoxically its success. Its reliability and widespread availability meant it never became rare or collectible, and its specialized sport touring category was eventually overshadowed by more focused sport bikes and heavyweight cruisers, a victim of being too good and too available to be remembered as special. Number 1, Kawasaki GPZ 900R Ninja, 1984 to 1986 US. Taking the top spot is the Kawasaki GPZ 900R Ninja, the most forgotten revolutionary motorcycle in history. This was literally the first Ninja, the bike that started the most famous sport bike family name. Developed in secret over 6 years, it was the world's first 16-valve, liquid-cooled inline-4 with the engine mounted low as a stressed member in a steel frame, creating lightweight, rigid chassis that redefined handling. The GPZ 900R's 115 horsepower made it the first production bike to exceed 150 miles per hour, and its clean sweep in the 1984 Isle of Man TT production class proved its racing credibility. Culturally, its legacy was cemented by Tom Cruise riding it in Top Gun, making it a symbol of 80s cool that elevated it from machine to cultural touchstone. Despite being genuinely groundbreaking, the GPZ 900R faded from American consciousness due to the very revolution it started. Its innovative design was quickly superseded by lighter, more powerful, refined superbikes, including Kawasaki's own GPZ 1000RX and later ZX10. While it remained in production in Japan until 2003, its early U.S. discontinuation in 1986 meant it never became a long-term fixture in American motorcycling memory. The GPZ 900R represents the ultimate forgotten classic, the bike that literally invented the modern sport bike category, started the Ninja legend, achieved cultural icon status in Top Gun, and then somehow completely vanished from collective memory. It's the motorcycle equivalent of a founding father that history forgot, despite creating the template for everything that followed. The tragedy of these forgotten motorcycles isn't that they were failures, it's that they were often too successful, too innovative, or too ahead of their time. They paved the way for the bikes we celebrate today, then faded into obscurity as victims of their own success. For modern enthusiasts, these represent incredible opportunities to own genuine pieces of motorcycling history at affordable prices, each with stories that deserve to be remembered and celebrated. About 50 brutal truths every rider should know.